Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to 22 Panels. My guest today, we finally found time, and only kind of because the world keeps spinning. Is the wonderful Heidi MacDonald of the Comics Beat, the Beat, whatever you want to call it, Comics Beat in the URL, the Beat in
Mm.
just the title.
Yeah,
Uh,
comicsbeat.com, everyone.
that's right.
Yeah. Hey, Tad. Thanks
the
for having me
the
on.
place to get your news.
Yeah.
Um, I had a laugh with you this morning when you talked about the scoop at that other place that I will never quote until I've found a second source for them.
Well, I try not to. I usually let it go, but that one was just so lame. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That was just so bogus. Um,
I
uh,
mean, essentially, it was a scoop because they decided that they'd figured it out first and don't read anybody else
well,
and
you know what?
don't understand contract law and
Well, the
don't.
other thing, let me throw this in there. The other thing that really amazes me. And, listen, we're on a podcast. I don't like to mention the
Right.
print, but we'll say it here. I'm talking about Rich Johnston at Bleeding Cool. And since we're just in here, it kind of cracks me up because I've been hearing that Universal. Okay, so we're talking about how Universal, which is, does your podcast cover comics? Because I've only been on here talking about baseball, right?
Yes, we do.
Well,
We're,
okay,
we're,
so
we're comics primarily
yeah.
and baseball just for
Oh,
those.
the special. I was like, oh, I want to just
Yeah.
come on here and talk about Francisco Lindor, but we could do
Well,
that a
we'll
little bit.
definitely talk some
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, you're here, so we're going to be
Okay,
talking
so
baseball.
this is my third podcast of the week, and yet I still feel I have more to say.
Okay.
So yeah, we're talking about the diamond distribution, diamond bankruptcy and all the effects of that. And, now I have been reporting, and it is pretty well known among comics industry insiders that Universal Distribution of Canada has been trying to get into the US since the pandemic.
Yeah.
And they signed a deal with DC Comics in 2022 to do that. So, I mean, it's just, I hear this constantly, right?
Yeah.
And what's really cracks me up though is that this other site in February, when all the mystery of um of what was going on with Diamond and what would become of it and all that, like this other site reported that oh, maybe Universal would get into North America, but no, I heard that's not true. And I'm like, you're wrong, you're just wrong, you're dead wrong right there, and it's like your sources are so bad, or I don't know why are you playing this game, because
Well,
they
and
do they
and
do want to
and
get in.
I mean, first of all, why on earth would they not want to get in?
Hmm.
So, unless you have ironclad sources from Universal and like bank statements. What's the point of saying that? I mean,
Hmm.
I have friends that are journalists too, and that's like the weird thing that I'll get into. There's just entertainment journalism is still journalism. It should be treated as such. It's why I love you. It's why I love more and more. Is it Milton Greep,
Oh
ICB2?
yeah, ICV2
Has
is
been
Milton is
very,
well,
yeah,
Milton's
on top of
reporting
it.
on Diamond is the gold standard
Right.
because he was a competitor of Diamond's and knows all about how distribution works. And
Works.
he is this is Milton and I have talked about, listen, secrets of the comics. I chat every day with a whole bunch of comics insiders, right? Like we're it's not a group chat, but we talk all day and
Right.
about this. I don't talk that much to Milton, but we talk pretty often. And yeah, he is the goal. This is the story that wraps up our careers in a lot of ways,
Right.
like certainly for Milton, this is the end point of a whole era of comics and a whole system of comics. And it's not a mic drop for him, but it is this is we both have to be here to cover this story. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I don't want to get too deep into it just because the handful of listeners that I know I have only love the business side so much. I get fascinated with the business side. I could talk to you about it forever, but
yeah, but
you also do it all day, so I
I
think
have
you'd
talked
rather talk
about
about
it
other
for
stuff.
about 2 hours already this week, so we
Right.
could talk about other
But
stuff. Yeah.
but overall, what I just like think I'll say is that like I'm shocked by the number of people who are surprised because, when you have an industry that's so volatile that I mean, it's like the kids today in baseball, not
Right.
the first article about the kids today not playing the game right was published in 1877.
Yes. I quote this to people all the time, and they're shocked when I do so. But in Ecclesiastes, the book of the Bible that was written like
Right,
2000 plus years ago, it says, and I am paraphrasing. This is not how the King James version puts it. But this is a modern English version. It's like, don't keep talking about how the good old days were, because they weren't that good. Literally
right.
says that in the Bible. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we know that, but it's so reflexive. It's just reflexive
I,
for all of us, because you know what? We don't, mentally, I'm still that 25-year-old on the Sunset Strip, going to the
right,
Roxy, you know.
right,
I'm in both
right.
places at once. And that's how we all are.
Well, that's because the good stuff is what we remember. But where I was actually going is like comics couldn't possibly be the one industry where a monopoly on distribution was a good thing. It was just counting on like A, nothing ever going wrong there, and B, it always being a benevolent distributor. And it's not a good business strategy.
No, it's not.
So,
It's
so it
really
was
not.
far from shocking.
And listen, when this just one other note, and I mean I talked about this in my story, but when this news dropped that Universal would be distributing DC, everybody's like, "Oh my God, they're leaving Lunar." And I was like, "No,
It's
they're
like, no, they're
not."
not. I mean, that was the first thing I looked for in the article. I'm like, are they leaving Lunar?
Why?
It makes perfect sense that they would that they it totally makes sense that they would distribute through as many people as were willing to distribute them. That's how distribution normally works.
Right? Right? Like, you go with who you think delivers the best service.
Right.
Who's the best to deal with, who has the best customer service, who has the best shipping, who has the friendliest reps, who
Right.
offers the widest array, who has the best
I mean,
discounts.
this is and like on a granular level, this is also like the comics gate problem where they're like, oh, I don't, don't give me my women and people of color. And I'm like, do you understand that this is called capitalism? You love capitalism everywhere else. It's not forced diversity. It's, oh my God, girls will buy comics if there are girls in
Oh
comics.
my God.
Oh my God, brown people will buy comics if there are brown people in comics.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not even. It's just they'll buy comics, period. Why don't you give
Right,
them more reasons to buy comics, right?
right,
You know,
right. They're
they'll,
already
they'll,
buying
they're
comics, so
all
so
even read comic.
acknowledging them will
Yes,
boost our sales even more.
yes, yes.
None of
So,
these books would continue to exist if they didn't sell. The
you
only
know,
things the only things that get to keep publishing when they don't sell is Batman.
right. And the other thing I keep meaning, I just don't have time, but I would love to do a story that is, called, Marvel's greatest success was created by a diversity hire, which is, Jeff the Land Shark is by far their most popular new character,
God.
created
Oh
by,
God.
right? Created by
Right.
Kelly Thompson,
Right.
and it's like, Kelly's absolutely proven her
Yeah.
bona fides, and she's
Oh yeah. I love
created.
Kelly.
Yeah, yeah.
Kelly's been on, I think, 4 times now. Kelly's one of my favorite people to talk to.
Oh, really? You've had her on the
Yeah.
podcast?
Oh God.
I would have to, I would, it's funny because I met Kelly, and so, okay,
I'm
so
like the little podcast that could, Heidi. Nobody
yeah,
listens to me, but
but
everybody talks to me.
I know that Kelly doesn't do cons, and
Right.
actually met her at a show, at an event for women in comics a long time ago, 15 years ago, and maybe, I don't know, in that time frame. It's all a blur. And I was talking to her, and she's like, I was writing for CBR, and I was like, oh, well, I'm looking for reviewers for Publishers Weekly because I was doing the comics reviews then. And so I was like, come on board. And then she started doing reviews for me. And then like maybe 2 months in, she was like, hey, I just got a gig writing for Dark Horse, so I can't review them anymore. And I was like, oh, that's fine. And then it was just like another publisher. And then after like 6 months,
Right.
it was like, oh, I can't,
It's
I'm
it's
I'm too
I'm
successful.
compromised. I'm
Yes. But
compromised.
I mean, and then I just been watched her career with
Yeah.
such
Well, because
joy.
she's amazing.
Yeah, she's
She's amazing.
amazing, and she created Jeff the Land Shark.
Right.
So,
Which is actually like at best my second favorite of her creations because I love Black Cloak.
mm,
I
right.
adore Black Cloak.
Oh, Black Cloak is another really good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, because when you took, I mean, that's like you put Kelly Thompson and Meredith McLaren together,
Mhm.
and it's like
Yeah, I've only read though. Here's my horrible secret. I just don't have time to read all the comics, and of course, nobody could. I'm
this
e
is this is one of the reasons that I fall behind on show notes because I
mm,
prioritize reading more comics to
hmm.
updating the blog.
Well,
If
I
you
I
really
have.
want to listen to me, go listen. But you have to put words on paper.
Well, I have to. Today is a Friday, and I it's funny because you and I made the date to do this podcast, what, like a month ago, something like
Something
that.
like that.
And you've been asking me to be on for a long time, and it's just,
2 years.
yes. And so I,
You show up for the baseball episodes, so I mean,
well, I mean that I have to make time for. And also it's in the fall when it's a little,
right.
little,
Well,
little
that there
calmer.
there's a reason for that.
Right. So, but I'll tell you, I try to honor my commitments. So it's just
I
like,
know you do.
especially for something like this, where it's like, you know what, I made this plan. I'm gonna just have to make it work as best I can, even though all hell is breaking loose. And I
So
also,
can you share the hell?
I
I
mean, it's
mean,
just
we
there's a
won't
lot
we
of,
won't go up
I
for
mean,
another day
well,
or
I
two,
had
so you
another.
won't scoop yourself.
No, there's another I just had another podcast that I had to go
Okay.
on. Or not a podcast, I had a meeting. I had a important meeting, and of course I woke up and I had all these exclusives. And then I just got pinged that, Oni is pulling out a diamond. So I'm like, oh well, I gotta get that story up. And then also I made another one of these permadates where a friend, we've been talking about going to the Metropolitan Museum of Art to see the John Singer Sargent show. And
Oh,
I
nice.
was like, yeah. So I'm like, oh, I have to do that. Like, I have to
Right.
keep this date because if I don't keep it, I might never see it. So I'm just like, okay,
Right.
I got to just cram this all in. And then also, when I come home from that Met, I have to finish reading all of the nominees for the Dwayne McDuffie Award because that I'm a judge, the Dwayne McDuffie Award, and
Well, then I thank you for taking your
yeah.
responsibility as a judge seriously. I
Oh
know that
well,
not all of them do,
they
and
do.
other
This
most
one
of them
we
do.
do. We do.
Oh, I'm certain the McDuffie judges do. I
Mhm.
just know I've known enough people with votes on various things through the years to just like, and sometimes it's forgivable because there's just too much, and
Mm,
sometimes it's less forgivable because it's like, well, it's like Hall of Fame voters. You haven't
right.
watched a baseball game in 10 years, but you're certain that Bert Blyleven isn't good enough to get in.
Or
But
Keith
Jack Morris, he
Hernandez.
had that really great.
Yeah. Or Keith
Well,
Hernandez. That's my big.
uh, I'll fight with you on Keith Hernandez because I don't know if he belongs. He's borderline. If he belong, well, how about this? You can have Keith Hernandez if I can have Mark Grace
Okay, fair
because
enough.
they're similar cases.
Yeah. I mean, but but Keith has his whole broadcasting career.
I mean, Grace was a decent broadcaster
Uh,
until he was a drunk driver
Oh.
and wound up in the tent jail that
But
Joe Apio
Keith
had,
didn't do anything bad. He just snorted a little coke. Come on.
and got Daryl Strawberry and Dwight Gooden into it.
I mean, it was the 80s. Everybody got everything into it. I mean, come on.
I know.
I know. I mean, I just think it's sad
Also,
that.
I don't like it when his politics come out on air, which they do every once in a while. Of course, that's true of like every white
And
baseball person
yes,
ever.
and I'm sad to say that Keith is one of those people who I will allow to do it. I love him so much. I always have. I've
No,
always
no,
loved Keith Hernandez.
I get it. I get
Like,
it. He's actually he And I was even asking, I went to a ball game with one of my dear friends who's been a Cubs fan long enough that one of his stories is that he dated Leo DeRocha's daughter and got punched in the face by him.
Wow.
Uh-huh. Um,
Nice.
so I knew that I was going to be talking to you, and I was at the game with him, and I'm like, so I have this issue, which is that over the last couple of years, the Mets have become so much fun. And so many of my comics friends are in New York and Mets fans, which is so much better than being Yankee fans, that I kind of like the Mets now. It is Ron Santo gonna like haunt me? And he's like, well, Ron's been gone for a while, and we've crossed the 50-year mark since 1969. So as long as you still aren't like hate the Cardinals, you're probably okay.
Right. You know, the thing, I will say the thing is that, we know, I mean, the 69 Mets were, hapless losers who had like, two incredible pitchers or, two and a half incredible pitchers and everybody
Depending
else
on what you think of Nolan Ryan at the
correct
time,
at the
because he
time.
was
Right.
not there yet, but
Right. His only World Series.
yeah.
Um, and, the hitters just came together for, a miracle. It was a miracle. 86 was an incredible team, and yet, they were the worst team. Like just their personal behavior was bad. We know that.
Yeah.
No one would get away with that nowadays.
We hope.
Well, look at Matt Harvey.
I mean, I was about to say, I mean, like something not talked about enough is that white baseball players still get away with hell.
Oh yeah, of course.
I mean, white baseball players are like Republicans. They never get canceled. They scream about getting canceled.
Well,
They don't realize that going on national TV to talk about how you're not allowed to talk anymore is like
well, they're whiny crybabies. You know what?
right.
I mean, I don't know what you mean by canceled, in the pejorative sense, or I mean,
I don't either. I
well,
don't either
I mean,
because
I will say Trevor Bauer absolutely did get his comeuppance, his well-deserved comeuppance, right?
but he still gets paid in all sorts of places by the people who think that he's I mean, he's the version of what's her name from Mandalorian, who immediately got cast in all the right wing movies
Oh,
because
Gina Carano.
right,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, you can't, they a success? No.
right. No, he's not a success anymore.
Yeah.
But that's also like how bad you have to be.
Yes, and he was pretty bad. But it is true because the first thing he was in the American League, so he wasn't really on my radar until the playoffs when he had the drone incident, right?
Right, right.
Which was when he had I'm pitching in a playoff game, but let me play with my drone. And the blades like sliced off the side of his finger, and you are not allowed to pitch with a band-aid on. And so he
Nope.
goes out there and it's just dripping blood. Like it's really gruesome. It's
Yep.
so super gruesome. And after a couple innings, they were like, let's shut this down.
Well, and see, like going all the way back to his Arizona days, he was a guy that I wanted to like because he's pretty clearly on the spectrum, as am I. I'm even officially diagnosed autistic now. So I try to understand, or I try to see when people are being misunderstood as much as they're being truly like awful in any way. But he
Hmm.
went from being misunderstood and weird to awful. And it's like you can't use the spectrum to justify continuing to do awful things.
Well,
It
there's lots
doesn't
of
mean that
right.
you don't understand once it's been explained to you. You might not have gotten it the first time, but
Um,
at some point, like people have told you and you have decided
and a lot of people are on the spectrum don't do horrible things. So
that's true.
you can only use it as an excuse so far, and it's just like if you show no awareness of your pain, the behavior that is causing pain and distress
Right.
to other people, then the community
Right.
judges people.
Absolutely.
And
And
that's what we've
again,
gotten away from with social media. Sorry, I just had to get that in.
right.
Sorry, Tad. Yeah.
We have.
Yeah.
We have. Um I mean, and it is difficult for me because I know that there are things that I have had to like learn that okay, I don't understand why people are hurt by this, but people are hurt by this. Um, and I know that there are lots of people that are like that. But again, like once you've learned, then you're making a decision. I want to be part of respectable to society or I don't.
Right.
You know, so I never think it's an excuse. It's an explanation that that is sometimes worthy of maybe a little bit more forgiveness if somebody seems to be really trying to be better. Does that make
Well,
sense?
oh, 100%, because
Right,
no one is perfect. Absolutely no
right.
one. And I see these people calling out behavior and and I'm just like, "Oh, really? You never did that?" Because I know you did.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
just I
yeah,
hate hypocrisy more than anything,
yeah,
really.
yeah.
And
I don't want to be judged by my worst
but
day.
Ted, the thing is, all of this goes back to the earliest days of human history. Just like I said, you could find almost all of this in the Bible. The
Yes.
Bible actually tells us some
And earlier
vi
works.
yes, and earlier Hammurabi, Egyptian law, all ancient civilizations
I
actually
mean,
have versions of
the
this.
Odyssey and Iliad have a
Yes.
lot of shit in them.
Yes. And
They
there's,
don't have the color blue, but they have a lot.
right. And look, they had a lot of crappy laws like let's cut off people's hands. So, but they also had all these basics of, if you come into my house and shit on my living room floor, I don't have to invite you back. That's just the basic rule of human civilization.
I thought that there was a time where we were supposed to shit on the floor as our way of
Oh, yeah.
showing our gratitude for being invited.
Well, what about the
It's
time that you shit on my floor? What
right.
about the time you shit in the toilet?
Didn't you say mi casa, su casa?
Mhm. Right.
We're going off the rails here. So let me ask the question that I actually have wanted to ask
Oh,
like since we started talking, because this is one of my favorite questions to ask
oh
anybody. But
boy.
you've had a more unique career than a lot of people. You've been an editor, you've been a journalist, you've been around Vertigo, you've been around like so and uh, this is not don't give me your CV, your resume.
All right, right.
When I say this, it's almost give me your reading list and start
Mm,
as young as you can.
right.
Give me your comics biography. Tell me what got you hooked, what kept you going, what made you go, "Oh wow, this is I already knew this is amazing and now it's even more amazing, you know."
Well, I'm quite old, so I go back to the
I
60s.
have two grandchildren.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. So, yeah, so I go back to the 60s,
I don't go back to the 60s, but
but
people aren't
yeah,
allowed to say
yeah,
they're old because I have two
right. Well, I
grandchildren.
know, but I'm, just I'm not going to try to hide my age, but I am going to fudge it a
That's
little
fair.
bit. But I was reading,
You
there
may
was
have had a pet dinosaur,
maybe,
but
maybe I was there at the Eisenhower, inauguration. But
right.
um, they had a lot of comics for kids that you could buy on the newsstand when I
Yeah.
was growing up. And herein lies the tale. So I'm going to tell you my CV, and it'll be a lot of digressions because it gives some good space for analysis. And so that's my primal scene. My primal scene is somewhere where my mother was a comics reader, a big fan, and also an artist and a cartoonist.
You and the Hernandez brothers.
Yes, and my grandmother was also a comics fan because they had
Oh,
both read
nice.
comics as a
Right,
kid, as kids,
right.
right? So they had no compulsions about it. So so anyway, that's my primal scene. The
So
spinner rack somewhere in Fairfield, Connecticut. and buying an Uncle Scrooge comic. And yeah,
Ah,
Carl
I
Barks.
love my
And
Uncle
I love my
Scrooge.
Carl Barks. And my mom, and we had the classic thing that Maggie Thompson wrote about in All in Color for a Dime, which was we called it we didn't call it the Good Duck Artist, but we called him, oh, it's one of the old ones. So we would see the Disney comics, the Gold Key Disney comics, we'd flip them open and we'd see if Carl Barks was in it. And if he was, we'd buy it, right? And then along came I also love Little Lulu by John Stanley, which was also available. So there you had, just two of the greatest comics of all times available to me. What I say about the Primal Scene, what's interesting about it is that, this is, we have these, I would say Primal Scene, I mean it in the Freudian sense, right? This is a moment of flashbacks. We go back to moments of happiness, right? And joy and discovery of, the things that happen to us in our lives. And it's understandable that we all um just talking about the good old days, that we elevate these experiences, but a lot of people in my age group, your age group too, also had the spinner rack experience, and they keep wanting to go back to it. And um it's just, the spinner rack just isn't viable anymore. It just isn't, you know and
I mean, you say that, and I think that if somebody desperately wanted to, what they need to do is think harder about the wares.
right. And
Convince Sport Clips to have a spinner rack, or
you might have heard a barrage of pings, and that's just because my chat group just went nuts. And I'm gonna take a quick moment.
all
Uh,
right. We'll do a
right.
do. Heidi Scott, breaking news
Yes.
that she won't share with us.
Right.
She's got to save it
It's not even
for
about, it's more like I am going to go to ALA next week, and my
Oh,
chat group
nice.
is planning our trips. And you know how it is.
There you
Friday
go.
afternoon, you're not doing anything, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, should we have dinner here? Should we have dinner
All
there? You
right.
know what? Do you
All
like
right.
Thai? Oh, I'm allergic to nuts. And anyway, so I can't turn that off. So I
All right,
apologize.
right.
Anyway,
No
but yeah,
problem.
yeah, it's the wares.
Philadelphia is nice.
It's
Enjoy yourself.
yeah, it's the content. It's the content, right? The wares.
Right. Yeah.
And so I was on the bus here in New York City last night, and I saw two kids reading comics on the bus, and they were dog-eared. They were graphic novels.
Oh,
One I
yeah.
I snooped. One was a manga. I couldn't tell what it was. That kid was about 10, 11, 12. The other was younger, maybe 7, 8. She was reading a Avatar: The Last Airbender comic, and it
Okay.
was dog-eared. It's
Oh, yeah.
dog-eared and soiled. She'd read it so many times. And I
Oh,
just,
yeah.
I mean, like
And or it's
that's,
been passed around, and
mhm.
like, I mean, I have friends that are librarians, and they have to like reorder so much manga every year just because it's been checked out to the point that like it's unreadable anymore.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they fall apart and then they have to order more.
Right.
Yeah. But
Right.
yeah, there's nothing like, I read my comics to pieces. So going back, but they were floppies, as we called them,
Yep.
and the covers came off. I still have some of those comics.
I
They
do
were
too.
terrible condition, and the covers have come off. I have a couple, but they're just dog-eared. They're so loved, they're so read. And in a fit of pique, my other favorite was Walt Disney Comics Digest, which came out in about 68, 69. It was like first 168 pages and gradually dwindled, 148 pages, 120 pages. And of course I noticed this and was upset by it. And it had Barks reprints. It had so many great comics, and in a fit
And let
of,
me guess, as it dwindled, the price stayed the
this
same.
price stayed the same, yes. In a fit of
Yeah, I've got
youthful
some of those too.
youthful peak, I gave them to my cousins, my young cousins, and that's it. They are gone. They disappeared like moments later, and
See
just
that
destroyed. And so
that
I lost them. The great lost white whale, my rosebud.
see this is actually how I got mine. is that eventually my grandma was tired of having the boxes in her house that I was the only one that pulled out. So she called my uncles and she's like, you can either tell me that you're coming and getting them by this time or I'm giving them Chad. And they just all said, you can give them Chad.
Oh,
And
there you go.
all of my old Marvel, old Gold Key, Charles. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, so anyway, those were my first comics, my first beloved comics, and one of them was the Phantom of Notre Dame by
Oh
Carl
yeah.
Barks, and it's
Yes.
funny because almost all of, well, it's tragic because almost all of Carl Barks' original art was destroyed by Disney because they saw no value in it. And, thousands of pages of priceless art were destroyed. And that's why there's never a Carl Barks art exhibit. He's never in any of the museum shows because
Yeah.
there's so little of his work. But there is one page from the Phantom of Notre Dame that survived, and the people there's now I'm forgetting their names, but they're big Barks fans. They do the Barks Collector. They go to Baltimore Comic Con every year, and they bring the page with them and have it in the booth. So I was able to get my photo with this page of original art of the story, and so that was a
Oh,
really
nice.
great like closing the circle moment, just to be close to something that had such a huge influence in my life like that. So that's the great thing about comics, right?
Yeah.
Like we get to
Yeah.
close those circles an awful lot.
Yeah. No,
So,
that's one of my, it seems like every time I turn around, I'm either booking somebody that it's like, wait a minute, I get to talk to Howard Chaykin.
yeah.
Or I've become friends with people that it's like, wait a minute, I went to a baseball game with Dennis Kitchen.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
My
I know.
Mark Chiarello gave me an original piece of baseball art.
Yeah. It's pretty
It's like,
mind-boggling.
what world have I entered?
My moment for that was the Hildebrandt brothers, because I'm a big
Okay.
Tolkien fan, and like their calendars again were like, oh my God, like I poured over them. And then, when I moved to New York, they were kind of part of the con crew that, they were just two guys who hung out. And, I was at a
There was
birthday
a
party and we were dancing, and I was like, I'm dancing with the Hildebrandt brothers. How is this happening?
uh,
How is
there
this
was a
happening?
nice piece on Greg in the relaunched heavy metal.
Mm, mm. I'll have to check that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, getting back to me, but that still doesn't explain I guess like all kids, like by the time I was hitting my teen years, I got a little bit more um, like, well, first off,
Baseball and music.
there wasn't as much. Yes, I got into baseball cards for sure, but there was not as many like this is right when the newsstand was beginning to dwindle. And so there weren't as many kids comics, and the page counts were shrinking, and there were more ads. And so I guess there wasn't, Barks actually retired around that time. I did not know that, but he had pretty much retired. And as had Stanley. So it just which of course I didn't know, but it was the effect. And then it was a very fateful day that um, I think I mentioned on the other podcast, like my love of baseball was prompted by just this moment of reading this account of the brawl between Bud Harrelson and Pete Rose in the 1973 playoffs. So this was the set another like just the moment happened, and it just led to the thing is that my grandmother was raised by my grandmother, and she had this magazine that was like for teachers, which is a long story, but I was homeschooled. And all right. And it had an interview with Stan Lee, and it was about how Marvel Comics were much smarter than you thought they were, and how college kids loved Marvel Comics. And this is if you're into your comics, history at all, or your Stan Lee history, this was a real talking point. This was a real
It
PR
was.
pitch. And, it's probably Stan who was behind it
Oh
himself,
yeah.
right? But it's a really great pitch. And he got, he did like the night at Carnegie Hall. I mean, Stan was a big celebrity from Jump,
Yep.
right? Or not from Jump, but from the Marvel age anyway, the Silver Age on. So anyway, I read this article and I was like, huh, I wonder if I should read some comics. And then uh so we were at that spinner rack in James Way, or maybe Food Town, and I saw, what did I get? I got an issue of the Fantastic Four and an issue of Spider-Man. And the issue of Spider-Man co-starred the Punisher. It's drawn by Ross Andrew. I don't remember the number offhand. Then pretty good. Ross Andrew, pretty good artist, pretty good storytelling. I'm pretty sure they were both. No, what I that was written by Jerry Conway. The other was by complete chance, just so happened again to be the issue of the Fantastic Four written by Marv Wolfman, where the Impossible Man invades the Marvel office. So I happened to get into it with this fourth wall breaking in joke comedy issue that had really nothing to do with Marvel Comics except how the staff liked to kid around, right? But it was a good jumping on point, right? And then I think the third, so I read those two and I was obsessed. And then I think we went back to Food Town, and that this was the real moment. The third time the charm was X-Men 102 by Chris Claremont and Dave Cockrum, the Juggernaut, and Black Tom versus the X-Men. And I mean, I read this comic so many times, just over and over and over. And it's, as an adult who's worked in the industry now for 30 years, it's hard to, it's hard to get back that moment of wonder, right?
Yeah,
But it is true. And people do. It's like that kid on the bus was reading the story over and over again, right? And so that was it, and then, but the other thing is that where I lived in Somerville, New Jersey, had, again, now we're in the 70s, happened to have one of the best early comic shops in the United States, Quality Comics.
that's a good
And
thing.
you're right. So not only did I have motive, but I had opportunity. And so I soon started going to the comic shop. And then, the other gateway drug for all the kids of this era was that there was an ad in the Marvel Comics for Comics Buyer's Guide. And
Yep.
if you were obsessive, if you wanted to level up to the next level. You go from initiate to hero, right? You have to subscribe to the fanzine. So, of course, I would subscribe. And then now we're off to the races. Now we see there are Comic Cons, there are back issues, there are columns, there are writers, there are fandom, there are things. And it just went off from there. But, we didn't have an internet. And it is, I mean, I don't say it's the good old days, but I do say the internet right now is very shitty and shitification. Um, for a little while
You
the
have to
internet,
know how to use the internet now. I
yes,
mean,
but they
my
don't.
day job is I'm a teacher, so I'm
Oh, okay.
regularly trying to help people understand, like, just because it's there
Right.
doesn't mean it's what you're looking
What
for.
ages do you teach?
High school.
Oh,
It's high
okay.
school special ed.
So you got a real tough age there. I mean, they're all tough,
Just
but
yeah,
that's a pretty tough
yeah,
one. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, that is you just get in that. I started going to shows, the primitive shows of the day, and
Well, and you're on the East Coast, so you were right
yes.
where the primitive shows were starting.
Yes. And the first pro I met was Marv Wolfman, but we were in an elevator and I insulted him. I said, "Oh, I don't read much of your stuff," or something like that. Because I was socially awkward, so I just blurted
Right.
things out. And
I know all about that. That's the
yes.
I
Yes.
had to have a second introduction to Klaus Janson because I messed up my first one so
Oh,
much.
luckily comics folks are pretty
They are.
forgiving of these
And
things.
and like, when you're at a con, like he didn't remember the first one.
Right.
I
Of
remember
course.
the first
Well,
one,
that's the thing.
which is why I needed to have Mark introduce me because I remembered the first one, but Klaus.
Of course he didn't, right? So anyway, but of course later I would end up being Marv's assistant and sitting in a small room with him for 5 days a week, 20
Did he
hours a week.
remember you, or did
He
you have
didn't
to
remember
retell
me
him
from
the
that
story?
incident because we had
Right.
many encounters subsequent to the elevator incident. But
Did you ever
yeah.
tell him, yeah, the first time
Oh,
we actually
I
met?
I did tell him
Of
because
course
I
you did.
love Marv. Marv is my
Yeah.
mentor. Just one of the best people ever. Of course, a titan of the industry, no pun intended, but just a wonderful person. And
He took over Daredevil, didn't he? I feel like I've read a lot of,
I don't
I
think if
thought he
he
had
did, he wasn't
Daredevil
well
for a
known for
while.
it, but he did Tomb of Dracula.
But I was never a big Tomb of Dracula guy, and I was always a big Daredevil guy. So like I got to know my Daredevil comics
Well, maybe. I mean,
bigger.
I have to
It
say,
does look like he had a run.
but I have to say, to be honest, Tad, though, that is not a distinguished run on either Daredevil or Marv's resume, because it's certainly
I
not one th something that is
uh
among the things most mentioned.
I mean he did co-create Bullseye.
That's right. Actually, you're right. I mean, he co-created literally half of the Marvel and DC
Well, yeah.
universes. I mean, he's just an insane number of
I
great
feel
characters
like
that he co-created. And
I feel like he was writing the run where
I think he was right
Daredevil
before
and
Miller. I think he was right before Miller, right?
no, he was a little bit further before because I think Roger Stern was right
Oh,
before Miller.
right.
Um, but I think he did. I feel like he was the one that did the most of the Daredevil Black Widow run, where
Sounds about
they were
right.
dating and
Was
in
Gene Colan drawing that?
I think
I
so.
think so, because they were like,
Yeah.
Gene Colan draw 2 books a month. Can you imagine it?
I mean, we have a monthly podcast about Jack Kirby's Fourth World, so like I can imagine it because I talk about Kirby often enough to know that there are those crazy people who drew way too fast and too much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love Gene Colan though. I mean,
Yeah,
I just
I do
love his
too.
work. I love Tomb of Dracula, and then I discovered, Howard the Duck, which he was drawing,
Yep.
and Steve Gerber immediately became my idol,
Gerber
and
had a Daredevil run too.
he did that. I do remember, yes, um, and because Daredevil was considered the B book. That was
Yeah,
bi-monthly,
he
wasn't
was
it?
almost considered the D book. I mean,
Yeah.
they gave it to Miller because they were thinking about canceling it.
Right. And the thing that really amazes me is that Frank Miller was like 24 years old, I
Yeah,
think. And like, so they said, "Yeah, yeah, you can write and draw this. Sure, why not?" And I mean, can
right.
you imagine a 24-year-old being um given a marquee superhero book at Marvel or DC at this point?
Um, no, but I don't know that I think that's a good thing. I think that like I think there might be 24-year-olds out there that they should think about.
Well, yes, that's my whole point. I
Right,
think Ichiro Oda was I would have to Google but to see how old he was, but he was definitely under 30 when he created One
right.
Piece. Okay? I mean, if
Still
you look
going.
and still
We're
going,
doing
if you
our one we're doing our One Piece race as well. I'm
oh,
500 some odd chapters into it.
oh my God, you have a lot going on.
Yeah, man, so see, I love comics and
Yeah.
we do
Well, listen,
everything on it. We
well,
have book clubs and interviews and
you know what? Listen, I do have to. I we only have to. We're halfway through, and
right,
I'm only up to my teen years, so
right. So we got to
um,
move.
we got to move a little bit more. So you know what though?
Yeah.
I haven't told my origin story in quite a while, so I'll jump ahead a little bit. But again, I was homeschooled, so I didn't really have friends, so I didn't, and it wasn't easy to have fandom. So, but I read the Comics Journal religiously, and then I was like, you know what, I could write for this. And also, by the way, like another thing that is existed in those days that exists in a very different form then is that I wanted to be a writer. So, and so did my mother. My mother was around. It was like me and my mother and my grandparents because my dad was not in the picture. And like you would subscribe to Writer's Digest magazine,
Yep.
right? And so this was a magazine that had tips on how to write and, but it was mostly how to pitch editors and how
Right.
to, query. And of course, it was for people who didn't know, had never done this, right? And then it would
Right.
have like addresses of editors, like
Yep.
addresses of agents and places that you could send it.
And then
And
the annual writers market.
yes, with all the addresses. And so, my mom subscribed to it because she wanted to write. My mom was an excellent writer and also like a brilliant, brilliant artist and a good cartoonist, a damn good cartoonist too. She didn't do that many comics, and I'm sad, because she's actually really good at it. She makes kind of protest art now that's really, really strong. But anyway, so I read this and I was just like, oh, I'm gonna write a novel. I'm gonna sit on my typewriter and I would start, but I never finished it. I just didn't have the attention span.
I know
And
that feeling.
right, right. So of course I didn't know that there was such a thing as ADHD at that point in life. But I did just, I don't know, I had lots of thoughts and opinions for a 19-year-old and wrote up,
Wait a minute. A 19-year-old with thoughts and opinions.
yeah,
I
no,
feel
right. So I wrote up a review of Murata the She-Wolf and sent it to the Comics Journal, and they opened the envelope, and Dwight Decker read it, and then I got an envelope in the mail one day for the Comics Journal on return address, and it said, "Oh, we are accepting your piece, Murata the She-Wolf, Archetype or Angst, and and we will pay you a penny a word. So here is a check for $20." And there we go. That was it. I was off to the races.
and I didn't even know this book. Claremont.
Claremont and John Bolton.
Bolton. Yeah,
I
it looks
worked with John
cool.
Bolton later when I was at Vertigo. I never worked with Chris Claremont, and but I did work with John Bolton much later. So what a lovely, lovely man, and what a great artist, I
Yeah.
think doesn't get as much play as he should these days, but a lot of people don't. They get rediscovered and, you know, like
Rediscovered and then forgotten and then rediscovered again.
discovered.
And,
Yeah. Yeah.
so many of the best, like, I think that there are a lot of artists in comics,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
particularly because so many of the best don't really want to work with other people,
Mm.
um, and don't really want to work on a monthly schedule. So they don't have the Spider-Man books and they don't have
Yeah.
the
And it's yeah, I mean just getting back to the Gene Cole and Jack Kirby thing. I mean that really is um an enormous, enormous question for me, right? Like, I mean, Jack Kirby didn't live to be 100 years old. I think he was in his 70s when he died, so he wasn't that old. Um, you know, had this tremendous, tremendous work ethic, obviously, and his work is genius. I mean, it's just like, it's how'd you do it? Shortcuts, but they work. It's like you don't even think about the shortcuts, right? And Oda and,
I
all
mean,
the,
we're named after a shortcut sheet.
oh, right, of course, 22
22
panels. Yeah,
panels.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Oda takes shortcuts. All manga artists take shortcuts. They also have studios that
They
help
also
them
have a
out.
team.
They have a
Yeah.
team. They have a team, yes. But there's still a lot of shortcuts
Oh yeah.
and conventions and just, visual tropes that are, visual shorthand that is allows
Right.
people to understand what's happening, right?
Yeah.
And um, so I do think, I mean, I saw on Reddit today there was a thread that was called, "Why does Marvel only publish 10 issues of every book?" And, so we are seeing, Marvel pub, you know, cancels books after issue 10 so they can have a new number one, right? Even if it's the same team. It's very, very cynical. And yet that is an improvement because they said they were canceling everything at issue 5, right? Just enough for the trade and then it'd be a new number one. And I mean, so here's my like good old days thing. It was so cool when you went to the newsstand and you knew that there would be an issue of Daredevil by Frank Miller every month, right? And even more than that is when indie comics started. And so we'll jump ahead a little bit because then one day Gary Groth at the Comics Journal sent me a thing called Love and Rockets #1. He said, Heidi,
I love Love and
I said, I
Rockets.
think you'd like this, Heidi. And there
We
were,
I just talked to Beto and Natalia
oh,
about their new
wow.
book.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love
Yeah.
them. I love them so
Hmm.
much. And I love that book. And then again, we were off to the races. But you know
All right.
what? Love and Rockets came out every other month. Like
Yeah.
really, like clockwork. Like it
For a
was,
long time. I know
yeah.
because we have an almost weekly Love and Rockets book club where we've been going through issue by issue.
Hmm.
And we're about to start volume 2. We're in the in-between years right
Hmm.
now. We're
They were
reading
very,
Luba and Measles and
you were, I mean, you might die before you finish this.
I mean,
It's,
I've read them all. We have
yeah,
one
yeah.
one of the members is reading them for the first time,
Oh,
and one of the members we actually picked up after issue 18 because she wrote a letter
mhm.
that was published in issue 18 and had enough identifying information that I'm like, I've never had a letter writer on the podcast. I'm going to see if I can find this woman. And I found her, and she splits her time between Brisbane and Malta. So like we do our scheduling for the podcast based on which time zone she's in.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, but you know, they were very, very prolific in their youth. But they're, you know,
Oh yeah.
is not as prolific, but he is still pretty damn prolific compared to his peers like Klaus or Charles
Right.
Burns or, you
Yeah.
know, because they
How
like,
long did it take for Black Hole to
I mean, it
finish?
was like something like 11 years, right?
Yeah, for 12
So,
issues.
so anyway, but you know, but the thing, the point I'm getting at is that indie comics came out regularly. Chris Ware did a regular comic,
Yep.
and Klaus 8 Ball came out every other month. Like there was a discipline and a work ethic that was so strong that they could turn. And you know, as a reader in my 20s, I by then I was just like, you know, it was so addictive to be able to get these things. And you know, I just got back from TCAF and you know, picking up, I mean, I picked up some really great one shots. And I love one shot. I've always been about the graphic novel. That was always
Right.
my crusade,
Right.
right? But
Right.
um but I mean, I think it would be so addictive, right? To be able to pick up some of these really interesting comics
I think they're
that
web comics now.
they are, but it's just not quite the same.
No,
Okay?
it's not. But I mean, I think the people that have that discipline,
Yes. Oh, yes, the people who could do
managing,
it. Yeah.
right, managing to get the publishing on that basis is hard. So they just do it as I mean, it's like, uh, how often does Jeff Jack miss his 4 times a week
Right.
on
Yeah.
um questionable content?
Right.
You know, how often did Rachel Smythe miss
Lore
on Lore
Olympus. Yeah.
Olympus? You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely. The people who have the work ethic of a Jack Kirby or Gene Colan are doing web comics now.
right?
Period. Right.
Okay, because that's where they have the most ability to build them. You know, nobody's willing to take the risk financially to print them at that.
Yeah. I yeah, but I mean I will say, I mean I'm not the best judge because I mean I don't go to the comic shop and obviously, you know, I'm very busy putting out my daily website.
Right.
And you know, my experience is so far removed for that it might just be the haze of nostalgia. But I do think I would, you know, Carolyn Cash who does pee pee poo poo,
Yep. Oh, I love
right?
Carolyn Cash.
Yeah, and she's a
Haven't pinned her down for the show yet. We talk about it every time we bump into cons yet.
But she's brilliant.
She's
She's
amazing.
brilliant. A
She's
pee pee poo
amazing.
poo is amazing.
Right.
And it does come out pretty often for that kind of comic. I got,
At
you know,
least quarterly.
right, quarterly.
Feels like, yeah.
So she's really doing the do. Of course, then she has the weird numbering where it's not
Yeah.
sequential. It's like issue 22 and then
Yep.
it'd be issue
Yep.
0 and then issue
Right.
67. But you know, I do think that Carolyn Cash doing work regularly is a big part of why she is so popular and successful and probably
It's much
yeah,
easier to follow people when you see them regularly.
yeah.
I mean, I think, and this is a place like going full circle to our distribution at the beginning. I think as more distributors are um available and comic shops diversify more because I think once you're ordering from more places, you're finally going to get even more diversification. I mean,
Yes.
we were already getting shops that like because really it drives me up the wall how people think that it's so hard to make a comic shop work because they can't keep up on things. I'm like, no, you're looking at it wrong.
Hmm.
I'm not trying to say that it's an easy business, but the key to making a comic shop work is focus on the stuff that you love and can hand sell.
Right.
If you don't know it,
Right.
refer them to the local shop that does. Rather
Right.
than being in competition with that shop that's a mile away, go, oh, they're much better at manga down there.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's like
I can order it for you, but
you don't have to be a gatekeeper,
right,
right? And I mean, there is so much gatekeeping
right.
from comics, and it's just, why do you care? Why?
Well,
How is this hurting you?
and also beyond all of that, you like comic shops are a niche enough thing that they're not really in competition with each other. It's better to be your own thing and work with your neighbor rather than against your neighbor.
Right, right. Yes, exactly.
Mm.
So,
Um,
I mean, I'm not happy that my friends are suffering and my friends have lost
no,
money.
yeah.
And there's
Mhm.
literally some friends of mine who used to buy me dinner who can't afford to do it anymore. And
Right.
so that makes me sad. I'll admit it. But they will again. They'll survive, and someday they'll buy me dinner again because I can't afford to buy me dinner because I'm a comics journalist. But
Right.
so anyway, I'm not happy any of that is happening. I'm not, I'm certainly, really
But
shocked and pissed off by Ad
there are
Populum.
also
I'm sorry.
yeah. No, but there's also other places that I mean it's like comics industry has just always been evolving, and if you learn how to make money in it once, unless you are so stubborn that you're not willing to evolve at all, you have bumps in the road. You don't get destroyed.
Hmm.
Um, and like one of the reasons we have this podcast is like comics are the only medium that people will say I don't like. You
Mm,
don't have people say I don't like written words.
right. Or I don't
You
like
don't have people,
movies.
yeah, I don't like moving pictures.
I don't like music.
Right. Um, so like we are nowhere near market saturation.
Right.
The key is to bring more people into comics, not to get a bigger piece of the current comic market.
Yes, and I think Diamond really um was a land, look, they were a monopoly, which isn't great, but they weren't the worst monopoly. They were, as I always said,
No,
they were a very benevolent monopoly that
right.
was part of the community, and there were so many
But
beloved people who worked there who helped everybody in the community. Yeah,
But it was also a form of gatekeeping because it became so easy to have one distributor. If you couldn't get your book into Diamond, it wasn't going to be in most shops.
that's right. That's right. And the other thing,
I mean, that's half the reason that
yeah.
so many stores stuck with Diamond longer than I mean, they even knew that it wasn't a good idea, but between not wanting to deal with multiple distributors and the handful of times that Diamond had helped them out and the loyalty they felt, whatever, it's like they were slow to move anything more than they had to until suddenly
Mhm.
everything started showing up late.
Right, right. And then, I saw so much wishful thinking, which I understand,
Hmm.
completely understand. But so when people are like, well, when Diamond comes back, the new Diamond, whatever happens at Diamond, I'm like, you guys don't get it. Diamond is done. I knew that in
Yeah.
January. It was pretty obvious that Diamond was done in January.
I was relatively certain that Diamond was done when Lunar opened.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know how long it
Yes.
was going to be.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
it was clear, when Diamond didn't Diamond's cardinal sin, from my perspective, you're on the inside. So if you're wrong, if I'm wrong, like you can tell me, was laying off their employees during the time that they shut down rather than taking care of them. Because not only did the industry decide that they weren't willing to shut down, but when Diamond had to get back going, rather than having an experienced staff, they were hoping they could bring people back
Hmm.
or hiring new people or whatever. Their cardinal sin was, even if you're shutting down for the pandemic, you cannot let your experienced staff,
And that's,
particularly because you're a niche,
well,
that staff matters.
I mean, I'm not sure they let go of their most senior people,
Not
right?
their senior people, but the
Yeah.
senior people aren't actually the people who
Well,
do
there's a
most of the
lot of good
work.
people. There's a I know, but there are some very good people at Diamond. I'll shout out Tim Lenahan.
Oh, no, no,
Um,
no, no.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not trying to, I'm not trying to
yeah.
throw anybody in, because God knows there were a ton of businesses that made that mistake. So cardinal
Mm.
sin might be the wrong word, because that
But it
implies some
weakened
sort
them.
of,
It weakened them.
it implies some sort of malice. But
Yeah.
if there's any way for them to take care of their people rather than letting them go at that time, uh, they were more likely to survive.
Right.
Um,
Correct. Correct. But I mean, honestly, the problem, I actually would flip that, Ted. I would say that the biggest problem was that the people at the top of Diamond were not able to pivot, were not able to evolve.
yeah,
And the famous story of the Diamond of the Windows 97 operating system,
yep.
it just says it all. Like they continued to use Windows 97 and well into the aughts and well past the time when it wasn't a huge security breach, right?
Well,
And
I mean, which puts them way better than air traffic control and half of the government, but that's
yes,
a different thing.
yes. Yes, that is true too. And the thing is, I mean, how much does it cost? I mean, how much can it
The
cost?
government actually has a better excuse. The government has weird contracts where like, because of security,
Right. Sure, sure.
they
And
have
that
to
actually,
update based
yes,
on,
right.
and there have been people for ages going, "Hey, we need to speed things up because we're starting to hurt ourselves."
It,
But
it,
but Diamond, yeah, no, switching over your system.
sidebar. One of the good buzzwords I like in business of the past decade or so is nimble, right? And
Yeah,
I remember one time I was, the Beat has been around for 20 years, comicsbeat.com. And
become a
um
patron.
yes, please become a Patreon, patreon.com/comicsbeat. And
You get my dollar a month.
oh,
Maybe
thank
I'll give
you.
you more at some point,
Oh,
but
two
right now you get a
dollars.
dollar. Well,
That
we'll
would be
think
a
about it.
dollar.
I'll think
Dollar.
about it.
Anyway, um they were okay, yeah, I lost my train of thought there. I get the train rolling and then it gets
Nimble,
derailed. Yeah, nimble,
nimble.
nimble, nimble. Yes. So anyway, I've had many, many offers to buy the beat or partner with the beat or move the beat or platform the beat. So I had this one time, this is a while ago, and they're talking about platforming, bringing the beat on board. This is a publication. And so probably like 2006, 7, just when blogging was the early days.
Right.
And they were talking about bringing it on, and then they're like talking to the IT person who just hated me because I knew as much about tech as she did, right?
Oh yeah,
And
no. I mean,
yeah,
there are three types of tech people. They're the tech people who talk a good game and don't know shit. The tech people who know things really well, but get paid because they always work for people who don't know things well, so they make themselves essential. And the tech people that just want it to work well.
right.
Unfortunately, the tech people who just want it to work well are like the minority.
Right. And but anyway, so
And
yeah.
there's no money for them.
Well, that would be the people I work with, by the way. I only, thank God, I have good tech people now. But anyway, she was like, "Oh, well, when we move you over, we're going to have to regret, wasn't the word downgrade, from WordPress 2.3 to 1.8." So, and I'm like, "What?" She says, "Yeah, well, we only support WordPress 1.8." I'm like, no, what do you, why would I
Oh,
want to go back in time to a less functions? Why does that even, like, I am superior. You think and this is, now we have Google and Face, Meta and Twitter and all of them think that they're Godhead. And, but it used to be magazines publishers and book publishers who thought they were Godhead. And they're just like, oh, well, we are allowing you into our temple. So of course we're going to, downgrade the operating system of your, the back end of your product because we can. And anyway, I ran into that a lot.
This sounds like the Comixology story.
Oh, with Amazon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's take this amazing product that works really well, and we want to cut down on the number of IT people we have. So particularly because the biggest functionality that got taken away from Comixology when they downgraded it was like the things that would push sales. Books still read well.
Right.
What I can't do is go, ooh, I really like this inking. What other books has this inker done? Click.
I know, right? It's just like you took away the discoverability. Like
Right.
I mean, as we're
I
talking,
spend way less money now. So in some ways it's like, thank you,
so
Amazon. I
and
give you less money.
look, I mean, I'll say this about Amazon. Obviously, they like to make money. So they follow
Right.
the path. And, for whatever reason, they thought that Comixology was not as profitable as a standalone the way Zappos is. They also bought Zappos, which is
Right.
shoes. And, let's be honest, more people buy shoes than buy comics. So they left Zappos.
Which is sad.
It is
Which is
sad, but I
sad. I
get it.
think
I do
comics are much
understand.
more necessary than
I
shoes.
love my shoes. I'm a woman. I like shoes.
I
But
like shoes too. I've got like six different pairs of cons,
s-
but but but
okay.
I buy like $300 worth of comics a month.
Right. Well, I mean, they're both essential to life. Let's leave it at that. But
Yeah.
uh yeah, Chip and David of formerly of Comixology just announced their new uh
Yep.
platform, Neon Ichiban, which is a really weird
Right.
name, but okay. Let's roll with it. We'll work with it. And it is like I said, I think Amazon was just like, yeah, this product doesn't sell as much, so we don't need to have a standalone site. Obviously, the changes that they made, like you said, degraded the sales experience. I mean, I just can't imagine that anything Comixology has done to, make it just a Kindle product, a little tab on the Kindle store, has done anything to increase readership.
No. No. It's harder to find what you want to read. Subscriptions don't work as well.
Yeah,
Um, you can only search by the writer and the artist if they get that tagged right. You
right,
know,
right.
I mean, there are no curated lists anymore. You can't tap on, oh, I want to look at other stuff from this genre.
Mhm.
Um, all of like the more independent stuff is completely gone.
Yeah.
You
And I mean,
know,
but just Discovery is so bad.
no,
You know,
Global Comics is making I'm the biggest reason that I'm interested in, and I'm forgetting the name that you just tossed out. I'm on their list already.
Neon Ichiban.
Yeah,
So you already forgot the name. Interesting. Okay.
right. Well, I think of it as distillery.
Mm,
Um, um, the biggest reason I'm interested in Neon Ichiban is not necessarily because I think that they'll beat out Global Comics very quickly, because Global Comics already just has a massive library
mhm,
available at at a subscription rate. And
mhm,
yet most of the creators I talk to are at least mildly happy to be there. They at least know what they're getting paid. Whereas the number of creators I talk to, they're like, yeah, my book's on Amazon. I get a check every once in a while that I have no idea what it means. And
mhm.
it's for like no money whatsoever.
Right. Right. Yeah. No,
Um,
it's
at least when it's no money whatsoever from Global Comics, they're like, I'm a small comic, and they showed me that I had this many page turns and it turned into this
wow.
much money.
Well, there's the whole
Um,
webtoons economy as
yep.
well, and
Hmm.
we have a whole separate website we're doing that K Comics Beat, and it is really a lot of changes there. The
Yeah.
Korean gigantic entertainment companies are trying to come to the US, and some of them worked, some of them didn't. Webtoon went public, blah blah. I mean, it's listen, it's not easy, even when you're starting out
No.
as a $6 billion company the way Kakao did or Webtoon,
Right.
Naver did, but yeah.
But where I was going with being happy for the new site is that like searchability's not where it could
Yes.
be on global comics yet.
Yeah.
But we know that these guys know searchability.
Right.
So both they're going to have something different, and global comics is constantly upgrading, etc. So it's going to encourage them to get better in that way.
Right.
You
And
know, I
and
would like to have two real competing services, and then I want somebody to either step up and do the movie thing, or somebody to sue to make them step up and do the movie thing, so I can read all of my Amazon comics on somebody else's damn browser.
right. Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's
And keep track of what I've bought here and
well,
what I've bought
but
there, rather
you
than
know,
buying three different copies
I mean,
because I
just to
forgot.
we're kind of running out of time here. So to
We
bring it,
are.
we bring it full circle though with the old timer, bring take me back to the good old days. It is a fine point, because old people have seen things that young people haven't, and we are often able to predict what will happen based on our past experience. And it's hard to get the young people to listen to that. So it's not necessary that, it's all the same story, right? But
Yeah.
it's not necessary that we want to go back. It's just that, hey, you guys, watch out, because
Oh, it's
I
always best when you have real conversation between the old and young.
yes. Well, what I was going to say is one thing that old people say that you should listen to, please heed the lesson, is own your damn media. Okay.
Yes.
Anytime you are going on just streaming it. You do not own it, obviously. You're not even really renting it, right? But when you buy things, you should have access to them offline. They should, we're I mean, I guess, we've had so many of the same platforms for a long time, but, like they're very stable. Everybody's got a USB-C, which is fantastic. I just have to stay alive for that, right? And it's my goal. And but like the first time your floppy disk, drive was eliminated in your computer, and then
Right.
came your your CD-ROM
Yep.
drive was
Yep.
eliminated, and your
I've
SideQuest
lived
drive didn't work anymore. And like you
I
learn.
I've lived through much of it, though I have a caveat because moving your stuff is hard too.
Yes, that's true as
So
well. Yes.
so like I have a lower bar to buy digital, and if I really love it, I'm buying physical as well.
Yeah. Yeah. But
If you don't want to lose it, you
right,
need to
but
have the physical.
paper is more durable than digital,
Right.
right? Even if you can make infinite copies of digital, doesn't mean that they're all going to survive. And,
Right.
listen, obsolete media is a real true thing, and it's a huge
Have you
issue.
read Dave Baker's Mary Tyler Moore?
I have not, I started to read it, and then
Oh,
I had to set it aside.
yeah,
So,
no,
but
you're
yeah.
gonna need time because
Oh, okay. Yes,
it's not
yes.
a short,
No, I
but
was
it
like, oh,
deals with a lot of that.
let me blast through this. I was like,
It's
oh
so
no, I
good.
need to actually sit down and read
It's
this.
so good.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like the next time that you give yourself a day off, and I
Mm,
know that that happens like never, but next
it's not
time
gonna
you
happen.
give yourself a day off when you don't have other things to do, that's a good one to pick up.
Okay.
Um, the quick final question, and we're gonna have to have you back because
I know. We barely got out of
between your ADHD and my autism, we just go all over the
yeah, yeah, we did, yeah, yeah,
and and
no
I
straight
love
line.
it. I love
Yeah,
it. So
me
like
too.
we're gonna have to do this more.
Yes,
Sometime when both of our teams didn't lose yesterday,
yes.
um, my team made more of a comeback though.
Well, the Mets have the yips right now. They just lost
Yeah.
seven straight or six straight,
Yeah.
uh, quite a few straight.
So would this be a bad time to point out that Pete Crow Armstrong used to be yours?
I mean, you know what? Nobody loves Brody Van Wagenen, and so that's fine. That's just, like you had a bad egg and he made
I
some
mean,
bad trades.
I hated losing Javi Baez, and now I
Ugh.
go,
I
you
mean,
know, 2 months of Javi Baez for the
uh, and all Baez did was really teach Lindor some bad habits. you know. Yeah,
Uh,
for that time, they became a little bit, Lindor was so young. Anyway, that's the whole
well,
thing. But
Lindor and Baez are the same age.
they are,
And
but
they've
they
and they've been
became
playing
bratty.
together since they were 12.
Right. And Baez encouraged the bratty side of Lindor, which totally
Okay.
exists. All right, the final
Th-
question. Final question.
this is another conversation because don't you Superman wears Javi Baez pajamas. I have that t-shirt. It's
Oh
one of
my
my favorite
God.
t-shirts.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay. That's deep.
I- Tell me something you love. Preferably comics, but we don't really have rules. Preferably storytelling, but again, we don't have rules.
Hmm.
Something that you love that not
Wow.
enough other people have experienced, and you need
Oh,
them to so that we can talk about it.
well, I was sad that Monster Piece Theater didn't get an Eisner nomination.
Ah, that
You
was really
know,
good.
that book by
Tom
of course,
Scioli.
Tom Scioli that was done, was it an adaptation of The Great Gatsby
Yep.
starring Godzilla, done in his, trademark retro style, and
I
I
I
thought it was a
I I
masterpiece.
love that book.
I loved it so much, but it wasn't serious enough for this year's Eisner judges. So they did
I
not.
mean, but Santos Sisters got a
Well,
nod
that's
this
somebody
year, so
on the
that made me
jury
happy.
must have gone really. I know how it goes on these juries, and one
Yeah.
person cannot get a book nominated, except everybody gets one that they just throw themselves in the pyre and like, please, we've got to do this. So, I think the Santos
I
sister,
was very happy to see we did
yes.
an audio version of the Santos Sisters Halloween
Yeah,
special.
and guess what? The Santos sisters comes out pretty regular.
It does.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, the
does. I
San
know because I write for American Nature Presents.
Oh, there you go. And
Yeah.
Santos Sisters is totally a throwback to what we were talking about
Oh
earlier.
yeah.
It's like
Yeah, yeah.
a really fun, funny
Hmm.
comic that's very indie
And printed
spirit,
on newsprint
printed on newsprint and comes out, it's
in
very much, I
Buffalo
mean,
Grove, Illinois.
yeah, I mean, it's very much a throwback to
Yeah, it
Klaus and
is. I
and
love it.
Bag and that era of
Well, and
comics. So,
Archie
and well,
and
Archie too, but listen, Klaus and Ware both did their superhero comics era. So
oh
don't
yeah.
let them
Oh
fool you
yeah.
now. See, all of them, Seth,
Oh, I know.
Tomine, all of them.
Yeah, yeah. I actually have one of Dan Clowes. Dan Clowes sold his personal collection of comics to Chicago Comics.
Mm.
So I have a Dan Clowes Daredevil issue
Oh,
with his
nice.
notes up in the corner because he not only bagged them, he put little tags on them to say on the outside like who wrote it and like notes about. So there's this little tiny sticker up in the corner
Oh, wow. Wow. That's
because he
pretty
was
cool.
that kid.
Yeah, he was that kid. And yeah, and so was Ware.
Right,
Totally.
right.
So,
So,
yeah.
but
What?
Heidi,
Oh, I did
Heidi,
I pick? Oh, yeah, Masterpiece. I did. Okay, yeah.
Masterpiece. Yeah. Heidi, it has been a blast. We will
Oh,
have to chat
yeah.
again. Give me like 30
Absolutely.
seconds after we stop recording to babble
Okay.
and then we'll
Okay.
we'll call it a
Yeah. Well,
day.
thanks for. I mean, listen, I've been wanting to do it. It's just, the
Uh,
timing is
y-
always
y-
it's just rough,
See,
and
this
I'm
is
really
this
glad I
is
did it.
my
So,
hobby. This is
mm,
your job, so I
mhm.
get it.
Yeah.
For 22 panels, this has been Heidi MacDonald. We will see you after the next page.
Hey guys, this is Tyler from 22 Panels. I'm here to tell you all about our Patreon. If you enjoy this show, please consider donating to our Patreon to keep this show going. We have many different tiers, all different levels to help you decide what's right for you. Okay, so get on out there to patreon.com/22 Panels Podcast.